Hey, it's Miguel. How are you doing, Em? So today is the 23rd of November, 2018. It is the day after Thanksgiving, and I had a really enjoyable Thanksgiving giving day yesterday. I went down to Santa Barbara, and I had spent some time with the Santa Barbara vegan group down there, and we had a vegan Thanksgiving, and it was about 30 of us. We it was potluck style, so we each brought food, and I really had a great time. Really, just a grand time having conversations with people for hours. Just talking to different people, getting insights into their world. This is fun for me. I met a lot of new people. I had a lot of good conversations. It was a joy. I really had a nice time. These are the kind of people who I like to talk with. People who are interested in health, and you know, uh, they're interested in current events, and they're willing to have conversations about their family, and it was just really sweet and really warm, and I learned a lot, and had a good time with the food. A lot of people brought their own food that they prepared themselves. There was one person who brought a pumpkin pie that was homemade and raw, a raw food pumpkin pie. So that's a pumpkin pie that's was never cooked in an oven. And the crust was homemade, made of figs and I think maybe almond flour. And I don't know, it was really a nice, creative, enjoyable group of people, and I just had a good time. And afterwards, I went to a movie. I went to go see that Harry Potter. Actually, it wasn't a Harry Potter movie. It's the J.K. Rowling series called something Beasts. I forget. Fantastic Beasts. Yeah, Fantastic Beasts. And that was interesting. Johnny Depp is in there, and though it got me interested in reading the book, the Fantastic Beasts series. I hear that there's going to be 5 movies related to the Fantastic Beasts series, and so I think I might have to start reading those books. Now I'm gonna finish reading Harry Potter first. Right now I'm listening to the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I'm certainly halfway done through that audiobook. I'm almost 3/4 of the way finished. And I'm really enjoying it. It's really a great read. Or at least I'm enjoying listening to it in my car. I got the CD set from the local library, the Lompoc Library, and I'm really enjoying it. It's just good stuff. I'm laughing out loud quite often. I'm finding that it's very humorous, and I'm also interested in how it's going to all end up. I don't remember seeing the movie, and so I'm kind of curious about. Well, eventually, I want to see the movie. So this listening to the audiobook is going to inspire me to watch the movie. And so, I'm excited in this about this whole Harry Potter series. And I have an interest in going to Universal Studios down in Los Angeles and going to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter section of the amusement park out there. So, anyway, that's something I'm doing this vacation. I'm sort of on vacation right now, so I've got a lot of free time, and I'm just enjoying myself. I did give you a call, wishing you a happy Thanksgiving, and so I was glad to do that. Just, for me, it's about engaging with you, and so I was very pleased to do that. Happy to reach out and connect. And then I don't know if you noticed, but last night there was an amazing full moon. It was crazy bright outside. That full moon is something spectacular. Have heard and I've read that right now the moon is in its perigee, which means that it's in its closest approach to the Earth in its orbit. So people are noticing that the moon size is larger and maybe even more bright than normal. And boy, I totally noticed that. The moon was so bright that I was just bewildered. I was really awestruck by how bright the moon was. And so I urge you to take a look at it. Maybe tonight, check outside and look at that moon. It is really impressive how bright that moon is. I think the article that I read on the internet called it a badger moon. Anyway, I was really impressed by the beauty of the moon last night. I haven't had a chance to take a look at the moon tonight, but maybe I will later on. I'm going to go visit a friend of mine this evening, and maybe on the way in my car, I'll look to the sky and check out the moon. So one of the things I've been thinking about that my nighttime endeavors, remember it's daylight savings time ended, and what that means is that there's more hours of darkness. And of course I've been reading Harry Potter, and so what I've been doing in my mind is sort of mixing this idea of the evenings sort of being magical. And I'm having fun playing with that idea where I've got to fly here. I'm having fun playing with the idea of the wonder and the magic of the nighttime sky. Yeah. And that's kind of enjoyable to me. I'm really enjoying sort of making that connection between what I'm reading, the magical book that I'm reading, and sort of appreciating the night and what the night has to offer and the mystery and the magic of the evening. And it makes me wonder and guess about what might be happening and what kind of interesting things might be happening. Now, I don't believe in the supernatural, but there's still a lot of leeway in terms of me being in awe of the world and me wondering about things like, how do animals scurry about in the evenings and how do they live their lives at nighttime? I imagine owls, which we have in our local town, flying around and going through doing their hunting. I wouldn't be surprised if there were bats in the area. Maybe it's a possibility. The bats are hunting and the insects hunting, and I can imagine small rodents scurrying around looking for food at nighttime and being a little more active in the evenings. And so that to me is sort of exciting and wonderful, a wonderful part, something I appreciate about the evenings now. And yeah, loving that. I also, believe it or not, have started reading an audiobook related to the Twilight series. I might have mentioned this. On and off, I'm listening to Twilight, which has to do with vampires and werewolves. And it has to do with living in Oregon. No, it's Seattle, Washington, or near Seattle, Washington. And so I'm sort of, that is also making a contribution to my idea and attitudes about the night. And so that's kind of neat. It's just another way for me to enjoy the evening as it's happening. Anyway, now that Thanksgiving is over, typically I have I'm sort of devoting some time to appreciating and being thankful for the holidays. And I thought maybe I would, since Thanksgiving happened yesterday, that I would split off from that a little bit and just pick some random subject here in Panatti's Extraordinary Origins of Everyday Things. There's quite a lot of interesting origin stories that aren't related to holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I figured that I would just choose one and we could discover together, do some learning. I don't know for you whether it's as important it is to me, but for me, I've got this really strong love of learning. And it expresses itself in a lot of ways. Like I'm a part-time college student at the same time that I work full-time. I also have a lot of ongoing learning sessions going on right now. In fact, I just purchased an online psychology learning program that I'll be going through over the next couple weeks, and I've also started something called another website subscription related to learning called Skillshare.com, and I'm learning how to use Photoshop with more facility and more skill. I want to learn Photoshop. I don't have Photoshop the say the highest level version. I've got Photoshop Elements, which is sort of a less sophisticated version of Photoshop. It only costs $100 and it's a fixed one-time fee to purchase the software. I purchased that software, and I'm really enjoying Photoshop Elements, and I'm learning a lot from YouTube and from Skillshare and other sources about how to, edit my photographs. So anyway, I figured one thing that we could talk about is shampoo. And I read here from this book that shampoo began its origin was in the 1890s in Germany. What I think is amazing is that shampoo didn't exist before the 1890s in Germany. Now, I imagine some form of washing did exist, but I'm guessing that shampoo in particular did not exist before or prior to 1890, or at least what we all have come to acknowledge what shampoo is, right? So and I'm noticing that it began in Germany. So let's read a little bit about shampoo. The main function of a shampoo is to remove the scalp's natural sebum oil from the hair, for it is the oil that causes dirt and hairdressing preparations to stick tenaciously. Ordinary soap is not up to the task, for it deposits its own scum. The job is easy for a detergent, but detergents were not discovered until late in the last century, or manufactured in any sizable quantity until the 1930s. How then, over the centuries, did people effectively clean their hair? The ancient Egyptians started one trend, the use of water and citrus juice, the citric acid effectively cutting sebum oil. Homemade citrus preparations, scented and occasionally blended with small quantities of soap, were popular for centuries. A detergent-like alternative appeared in Europe in the late Middle Ages. It involved boiling water and soap with soda or potash, which provides the mixture with a high concentration of negatively charged hydroxyl ions, the basis of good modern-day shampoos. I'm guessing that's sort of a basic mixture. Similar to shampoo, yet closer to soap, these brews were homemade and their formulas handed down from generation to generation. Ironically, the word shampoo originated in England at about the same time German chemists were discovering the true detergents that would become modern shampoos. In the 1870s, the British government had taken control of India from the ruling British East India Company, granting the Hindu-speaking Indians progressively more power in local affairs. Indian fashion and art, as well as Hindu phrases, were in vogue in England. In that decade, current British hairdressers coined the word shampoo from the Hindu champo, meaning to massage or to knead. Shampoo was not a bottled liquid to be purchased in a store. It was a wet, soapy hair and scalp massage available to patrons of fashionable British salons. These cleaning preparations, secretly guarded by each salon, were brewed on the premises by hairdressers employing variations on the traditional formula of water, soap, and soda. Traditionally, the first true detergent-based shampoo was produced in Germany in the early 1890s, when after World War I, the product was marketed as commercial hair cleaning preparations. The label shampoo was awaiting them. One man, Jack Breck, helped launch the shampoo business in America, turning his personal battle against baldness into a profitable enterprise. In the early 1900s, the 25-year-old Breck, captain of a Massachusetts volunteer fire department, was beginning to lose his hair. Although several New England doctors he consulted assured him there was no cure for baldness, the handsome, vain young firefighter refused to accept the prognosis. Preserving his remaining hair became an obsession. He developed home hair restoring preparations and various scalp massage techniques, and in 1908 opened his own scalp treatment center in Springfield. When his shampoos became popular items among local beauty salons, Breck expanded his line of hair and scalp products, as well as the region he serviced. He introduced a shampoo for normal hair in 1930, and years later, shampoos for oily and dry hair. By the end of the decade, Breck's hair care business was nationwide, becoming at one point America's leading producer of shampoos. Of all his successful hair preparations, though, none was able to arrest his own advancing baldness. So, wow, what an amazing story. So, we learned that way back when the Egyptians used preparations of soap and citrus to cut through the sebum oils in the hair, and that it wasn't until the 1890s in Germany that real detergents were produced. The 1890s. Prior to that, people were using potash to sort of provide a caustic mixture. That basic mixture sort of made their hair more manageable and helped with the sebum accumulation. So yeah, the 1890s in Germany, that's when detergents of any appreciable effectiveness came to be. I can imagine, that's part of like the Industrial Revolution there, 1890s. So just prior to the 1900s. And then it wasn't until the 1930s that hair product shampoo was produced, and I guess, manufactured on a large scale in the United States by a man named Breck, a firefighter who was suffering from male pattern baldness. Poor guy. Yeah, I guess he just became obsessed with finding some product to help him out. Now, thankfully, today, chemists have come up with formulations that help people grow hair. But it did take about 100 years for that to happen, right? And, in the meantime, these last 100 years, we've had the benefit of using real detergents in our hair and cutting back on that oily hair, those oily deposits. Yeah. So thank you very much. Panatti's Extraordinary Origins of Everyday Things. Really appreciate that point of information. Yeah. Shampoos. There's so much that we take for granted in our lives. I use a shampoo and a conditioner, and really I take for granted the fact that I've got both. There is some chemistry. There are diligent scientists who are working tirelessly on developing new and more effective formulas for cleaning hair and making it more manageable. And I get the benefit of all of that work. Not only the formulations, but the sourcing of the original materials and the mixture and the production and putting it in bottles, the manufacturing, and then the distribution and the marketing and all that, the whole economics related to caring for one's hair. I take advantage of that. I don't even think twice about it. Although I do think twice about it a little bit. Recently I changed hairspray from a Suave product to a sea salt hairspray, a sea salt spray, and I've really been enjoying that. I've talked a little bit in the past about that. So, we are the beneficiaries of all of this work, to help us look our best during the day. I'm really grateful for that. Really grateful for that. That I can sort of live my life in a fairly thoughtless way and not need to think too much about sebum control, right? My sweat glands and stuff. Speaking of sweat glands, I went to the gym today, And I enjoyed a wonderful workout, a running workout, and also a workout on the squat machine. And then I also did a little leg press today. And so for me, it was a big lower body exercise day. And boy, I tell you, I was thinking about how today I had a very successful workout. I lifted more weight than I ever have before. I ran today faster than I've ever run, and for a distance longer than I have ever run at that speed than ever before in my life. And I was thinking about, this progressive training program that I'm doing and how all it will take. I mean, how fast will I be able to run in a year's time? In my mind, I'm already running really, really fast. 8 minutes, 40 seconds per mile. Most people run a 10-minute mile. That's respectable. But I'm running 8 minutes and 30-second miles. And then I was thinking, well, maybe if I can do 8-minute, 30-second miles, I can probably do 8-minute miles, and maybe even 7-minute miles. I wouldn't put it past me to run 7-minute miles. I bet you I could. So I mean, just imagine where I'm going to be in 5 or 10 years. I'm going to be totally fit 50-year-old. Let me tell you. So I'm really looking. I'm actually. There's little to look forward to. I'm enjoying that benefit right now of being able to run as fast as I am, and so I'm really proud of myself right now. Just have a really deep sense of pride and effectiveness in the world that I can do that. And Emily, if you ever get the chance, I encourage you to participate in some kind of progressive exercise program. And when I say progressive, what I mean is that it gets harder and harder over time, right? Slowly, you condition your muscles to increase the weight, increase the duration, increase the intensity, increase the volume of the exercise that you do. And I'm making progress in a lot of ways too, not just my physical efforts, but also mentally, psychologically, making all kinds of wonderful distinctions these days. And then nutritionally, I am learning new things about nutrition all the time, making tweaks, adding, subtracting things, judging whether one vitamin or supplement is better than another based on my experience, and also based on my blood tests, my visits with the doctor. It's just, I love that I'm on this conveyor belt. Really, it's more like an escalator, right? Where I'm making progress all the time. And I love it. That's one of the things I love about human beings, is that we are always, adapting to our environment, adapting to the context, making our lives bigger and better, and we're becoming more, more thunderous, stronger, better. That's awesome. I feel like the $5 million man. So, anyway, now that we got that out of the way, maybe what we can do is do a little Q&A, right? So the Q&A segment is about, me just sort of talking about myself and what's going on in my life, and using some questions that I found in a Kindle book. And, I'll go through the questions one by one, and maybe you'll get a little insight into my life and what I'm thinking about in the moment. I hope it'll be valuable to you. It's valuable to me too, because, I get to explore my own inner ideas and, this forest that exists in my mind. I'm using the metaphor of a forest because that's what it is. I'm hiking through that forest every day and exploring the pathways that have been laid down over the years and sort of understanding what it is to be me. So there's a lot of self-exploration going on, and I'm really pleased that, you've got a chance to watch that happen in real time. So that excites me. So question number 369, do you like cocoa? Oh yeah. In fact, I had a cup of cocoa last night. And I think I had it yesterday morning for breakfast. So I've been really raving about this Keurig coffee machine that I got, right? Really been enjoying the coffee. I've been using my K cups and I'm really finding that quite an enjoyable experience. I have a grinder, but I just haven't used it yet. One of these days I am going to get some coffee beans and grind those beans. And if not, I'll just get some spices and I'll start grinding those spices away. But I've got the K cups now, and I've been experimenting with different kinds of creamer and different kinds of sugar and, what I like. And boy, I tell you, there's just this, I'm just loving it. I'm finding that I'm really loving coffee, brewed coffee. Well, actually, brewed in a K cup, I suppose. And I'm loving the various flavors of the decaffeinated coffees that are available, like the hazelnut and the French vanilla. And I don't know. Yesterday, was it yesterday? No, it was the day before. That night, I went to Vaughn's and I picked up not just hot cocoa K cups, but also hot apple cider K cups. So now I've got a double whammy of wonderful, sort of festive drinks that I can offer to guests or I can drink myself. Hot cocoa and hot apple cider. So really excited about both those products. I've had samples. I sampled both yesterday morning for breakfast, and it just really made for a wonderful Thanksgiving. In fact, I feel really blessed, really grateful to have access to these amazing drinks that are so tasty. I've got hot apple cider, hot cocoa, and hot coffee. And then I also have hot tea. I mean, the sky is the limit. I am basically on cloud nine in terms of the beverages that I'm drinking now. Tea, coffee, apple cider, hot cocoa, you name it. I got it. I even have a cafe latte K-cup preparation. So if you're not familiar with a latte, it's essentially cream and hot tea, cream and black tea. Now here's the thing. I like to try to eat vegan, and so I've only had one of the cafe lattes. And really, the reason I got it was because I had never had one. I'm really not a big coffee connoisseur. I don't go to Starbucks a lot. And I figured that I'd just give it a try, right? Like, I didn't necessarily want to go to Starbucks and get a cafe latte. It's just easier for me to buy some K-cups and have that prepared in my own kitchen. So, one of the great things about the Keurig is I don't need my own barista to prepare my drinks. I can prepare them myself, and at a fraction of the cost that I would pay, say, at a Starbucks. So I sampled a cafe latte, and I try to eat vegan, and look, sometimes it just doesn't happen. There are practical considerations, and for me, this was about exploration in a new area of beverage, and I wanted to give it a try at least once. I wanted to be able to say, yes, I've had a cafe latte, and indeed I have. And you know what? How I felt about it? It was okay. It didn't blow my socks off. So I'm pleased about that because I probably won't drink very many of them. So if you want some K cups, I'm happy to offer them to you. Send me a text message or something, and you can have my cafe latte K cups. All right. If that's something that you really enjoy, drinking cafe lattes, go for it. I'll hand over my box to you. So yeah. So to answer the question here in this book, yes, I enjoy cocoa. I'm a person who's got a lot of memories about hot cocoa and sort of how hot cocoa has impacted me over the years, particularly it's impacted me most while camping. So what I can remember during my camping experiences is, basically having the mixable packets of hot cocoa and I've got water warmed over the campfire. And, there's also marshmallows, right, in my hot cocoa. Man, that's amazing stuff. And then, of course, you have to remember, too, I grew up in Taos, New Mexico. And in Taos, the winters are really cold. Taos, New Mexico is at an elevation of 7,000 feet. And about 5,280 feet, that's a mile. So the Mile High City is Denver, Colorado. And Taos is about a mile and a half above sea level. It's 7,000 feet. So, that is a very high altitude to live. And what that means is that it's often quite cold, it's often quite dry. The sun beats down on you with its radiation because, there's less of an atmosphere above you blocking out those UV light rays. And so that's the kind of environment that I've come from. And what that means is, as it relates to hot cocoa, is that I've had my share of hot cocoa. Because as a kid, as I was growing up, what better way to warm your bones than having a nice, hot, steaming hot mug of hot cocoa? Yeah. So I've got a lot of good memories about hot cocoa and drinking it with my family. I'm a little curious about whether you like hot cocoa. I am totally open to visiting a Starbucks and getting a sample of hot cocoa, or you're welcome to come on over to my place and we can have hot cocoa together. Oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So yeah, I like hot cocoa. Tastes great. Next question. Do you like coffee? Question number 370. And the answer is yes. I've been talking about it, really raving about my Keurig coffee machine and enjoying that. So yeah, I like coffee. What do I like about coffee? Well, one of the things that is important to me is that coffee doesn't have any calories. So it's basically a free food. And, basically I drink just the decaf, so I don't have to deal with any of the stimulating effects of caffeine. I'm loving coffee. I like the bitter, complex flavor of coffee. I love its, sometimes it can be like a little sharp or sour. I wouldn't call it sour, but it could be acid, right? And love that. It's a very adult drink, very complex. There are different kinds of roasts. So there's like this charcoal flavor. And and I especially love my coffee when it's sweetened with sugar. And of course, I don't use real sugar. I use Splenda, which is a 0-calorie substitute. And loving that, loving my Splenda. So, as you can tell, I've got this twinkle in my eye when I talk about coffee and the coffee I've been enjoying lately. So that's been a really fun and interesting discovery that I've made recently. All right, so what's the next question? Question number 371. Were you ever a fan of chain emails, or letters? No. No, I've never been a fan of chain emails. I've never been a fan of chain letters. Pretty much when I get those emails or letters, I just delete them or ignore them. So I typically don't send those things out. Question number 372. Do you get songs stuck in your head often? And yeah, I sure do. The more music I listen to, in fact, the more sensitive I am to getting sort of like this melody in my mind. And for me, it's not that bothersome. I enjoy the song. I wouldn't play it again and again in my mind if there wasn't some aspect of that earworm that I enjoyed so much. So, yes, I'm fine with it. I remember For me, the song that really gets in your mind and stays there is It's a Small World by Disney. It's a small world after all. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm fine with that. To me, that is enjoyable. You know, I love having music in my mind, and it doesn't bother me. Question number 373. Has anyone ever mixed you up with someone else? And yeah, believe it or not, this happens all the time to me. People often comment that I look like other people. This is very regular. In fact, people have often commented to me that I look like Ferris Bueller from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Who's the actor that played Ferris Bueller? It'll come to mind. But a lot of people tell me that I look like Ferris Bueller. And I think they're right. I sort of have that round face, clean cut look, I think. Matthew Broderick. That's his name. Matthew Broderick. I'm pleased to look like Matthew Broderick. I think Matthew Broderick's a pretty handsome guy. All right. So, next question. Question number 374. What do you do to maintain your lifestyle? What do you do to maintain your lifestyle? I'm trying to understand what that question means. What do I do to maintain my lifestyle? I'm not sure what that question means. What do I do to maintain my lifestyle? I can't answer that question because I don't understand it. Question number 375. What do you do to maintain your health? Okay. Well, I do a lot of things. My health. My health for me boils down into two areas: mental health and physical health. Now, they're essentially the same thing. But what do I do to maintain my physical health? Well, I exercise regularly. I go to the gym, I bicycle, I swim, I do weightlifting, and what else do I do? I do walking. Yeah, so I do exercise. And then I also try to eat right. I've mentioned before I'm a calorie counter. And I also try to eat vegan. And I'm usually pretty successful. I would say that I'm about 90-95% successful in that endeavor most of the time. And so I'm pleased about it. I don't go overboard, so to speak. Like, I don't think going overboard to me means sort of over focusing on whether honey is allowed or not. I actually don't necessarily eat honey, but if it comes around, I think I'm okay with eating it. And here's the reason. My focus on eating vegan is it's a health focus. It's a decision to be healthier. It relates to the lower cholesterol of less levels of the food and the lower saturated fat levels of the food. So, it's really about that mostly, and the compassion for animals aspect is it's not as important as the health aspects for me. Though an interesting trend I'm finding is that the compassion for animals is beginning to grow on me. The more I hear about it, the more compassionate I am becoming. And in fact, I'm trending toward more empathy and compassion for animals the longer that I try to eat vegan, which is an interesting trend. So when it comes to honey, I'm okay with eating honey on occasion, but I actually don't eat honey very often. It's actually quite a rare thing for me to eat. Same is true when it comes to, like, some people don't drink or don't eat granulated sugar because apparently, and I have no knowledge about whether this is true or not, but I've heard rumors that In granulated sugars manufacture, there is the use of bone char. Now, I haven't done any you know, I haven't been driven to do any kind of research on that subject, but I know that many vegans abstain from granulated sugar because of bone char concerns. So I really don't know where that is. So I'm not so focused on veganism that I'm rejecting granulated sugar. I'm fine with granulated sugar right now until I learn otherwise. There are other aspects of veganism that I don't necessarily like. For example, these days when I purchase clothing, I will I will I will act to purchase clothing that does not involve any animal products or use of animals. So that means I'll stay away from leathers, I'll stay away from furs, real leather, real fur, right? I pretty much do that on a pretty consistent basis. But here's the thing: if I don't happen to be thinking about it, then sometimes it's not clear whether the leather is true leather or not. Sometimes the marketing is ambiguous, and I'm not sure. And here's the thing: I don't spend an inordinate amount of time doing research, figuring out how synthetic the leathers are. If I can tell, that's great, and that's an automatic green light. If I can't tell, then if I like the garment, I might just buy it. So it sort of depends. So I'm not really. I only have a preference for using non-animal products in terms of clothing and other things like that. It's a real preference. It's a preference I do use, but like if I really, really wanted something for some reason, like a shoe or something, and it had a patch of actual leather on it, I don't think that just that patch would be a problem. So, I am where I am in my journey, right? So, yeah. What is the subject about again? What do you do to maintain your health? Okay, so now I mentioned mental health. What do I do to maintain my mental health? Well, exercise and nutrition go a long way toward managing mental health. Now, of course, I also have a deep, abiding interest in psychology. And so I am continuously learning more and more about personal development, self-growth, and self-care in the realm of psychology. So I'm continually working on mental health aspects and making sure that I've got a mind that is as sharp, as razor sharp that I can make it, not subject to falling victim to, say, biases and informal fallacies. I'm always looking for better ways to reason, and I'm highly focused on. The other day I was just looking at books related to, rational thinking. I'm interested in knowing about tricks and tips and techniques for being as thoughtful and mindful as I can about the world around me and about myself. So that's how I continue. I continuously maintain my mental health that way. By maintaining standards about how I communicate with others and how I communicate with myself. So yeah, it's a continual project. All right, so that's how I do it. Next question. Question number 376. Do you have an enemy who was once a close friend? And I actually don't have any enemies that I'm aware of. Question number 377. Do you have a close friend who was once a bitter enemy? Do you have a close friend who was once a bitter enemy? And I really don't have enemies, and so that question is not relevant. Question number 378. Have you been in a food fight? That is a good question. Have I been in a food fight? Well, if I had been, I'm pretty sure that it would come to mind immediately. Now, I can imagine there might have been times in the past. I mean, as a kid, I can imagine, like as a toddler, I can imagine I threw food around. And as I grew up, say in grade school, I might have done it then, I guess, maybe. But any instances of that happening just have not. I'm not really sort of remembering them right now. Certainly not in my adult life. That's not something I do. I have a deep respect for food. Okay, next question. Question number 379. Do you always strive for more or feel satisfied as things are? So, that's sort of a mixed bag question. It depends on the context, right? Do I strive for something more, or do I stay satisfied? There is a virtue to either approach. It depends on context. I just really can't say. The question is a little bit vague. Next question, question 380. If you ruled your country, what changes would you make? Question number 380. Well, here's the thing about the United States. There's no single ruler. And so, in a democratic nation, all changes are done by a sort of consensus. And if you ruled your country, what changes would you make? On a deep philosophical level, it might make sense not to make any changes. And the reason is because, change is a double-edged sword. People really only change to the capacity and to the degree that they are motivated to change. And if one acts to sort of hasten that process along, it can backfire. And so realistically, I think societies change at their own pace. For example, actually, I believe that our culture today, our society today, is changing so fast, blindingly fast, that it's sort of like a roller coaster right now. There's so much change related to things like the Me Too movement, feminism, related to dating and lifestyle, gender, right? We're going through a gender neutral transformation now in our society. We're acknowledging sort of the gender neutrality of everyone, or even the gender fluidity of everyone. We live in exciting times. And there's so much cultural change happening because of the internet and media and communication. So things are really rapidly changing all around the world, and it's a really exciting time to be alive. And things are certainly changing a lot faster than they were when I was a young kid, a teenager. Things moved at a snail's pace, and now today they're moving so fast. I mean, just look at dating culture, right? The number of unwanted sort of unplanned pregnancies is like going down. I think the number of abortions is the lowest that it's ever been, right? So many changes. There's demographic changes in terms of what's happening with the millennials and what's happening with Generation Z. It's just phenomenal, the changes that are happening. And then we're going to have technology coming in with their autonomous vehicles and automation and artificial intelligence. And wow. I wouldn't even know what to change. Things are moving so fast. So, what's the next question? Question number 381. Have you ever talked in your sleep? I think I have. I have gotten some reports of intermittent talk in sleep, and I don't think the reports were very revelatory. They were kind of humdrum kind of reports. I think they're sometimes related to the things that I'm dreaming about, but they're rare. They're rare. It's not something that I think I do all the time. Okay, next question. Question number 382. Are you afraid of nightmares? Okay, I might have been afraid of nightmares. Was that when I was a boy, like a young boy in grade school, or maybe even a teenager, but as an adult, I'm not afraid of them. Question number 383. Have you ever woken up crying? That's a good question. I might have. I just don't remember. I just don't think I have, really. I think I've woken up scared. I've woken up frightened. Sometimes you do have nightmares and you're like, whoa, and you get woken up because of them. Question number 384. Do you ever wake up thinking a dream was real or vivid? Yeah, all the time. Yeah. Sometimes, now, this isn't a common occurrence. It's rare, but sometimes I do have a sense like, did that happen or not in my dream? Yeah, it's not always, I don't real always, it's not always apparent whether a dream is real or not. And I do have that sense sometimes that whether a dream is real or not. It doesn't happen that often. Question number 385. Do you feel disappointed after realizing it was just a dream? And oh yeah, totally. Some dreams, yeah. And other dreams, no. I'm so glad it's not what's going on. In fact, I think I had a dream recently where I woke up. It wasn't the greatest dream. It was a somewhat disappointing dream. And it was so vivid, so realistic. I popped up and I was looking around. Oh, is that real? Was that real or not? And then I began to think about, the previous couple months and years and recognized, oh, yeah, that's not real at all. That's not realistic. So sometimes it does take me a moment or two to recognize, hey, that wasn't real. Okay, question number 386. Is there something you will never understand about the opposite sex? Okay, well, here's the thing. I recognize the opposite sex as a mystery. And, that's wonderful in a lot of ways. And, it's just something that I am accepting. So is there anything in particular that I will never understand about the opposite sex? No. I don't have any in particular ideas. Just in general. Question number 387. Who is your favorite teacher in school and why? Well, I had a lot of favorite teachers in school. I think maybe my most favorite was Mr. Vanderlinder, who was at taught at Del Norte High School. He taught geography. I really enjoyed him as a teacher. I also enjoyed another teacher. She was my second grade honors English teacher, Mrs. Marcello, who I enjoyed a lot. Other teachers, I enjoyed a biology teacher in high school. His name was I think it was just Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez. He was a great biology teacher. I learned a lot. In grade school, I think I had a really amazing 6th or 7th grade teacher named Mrs. Paz. She was a science teacher who I enjoyed. And then I've spoken about Mr. Torres, who was a 5th grade teacher. No, I think he was my 7th grade English teacher who I really enjoyed. He was very theatrical, and he had a funny sense of humor. And he taught some really interesting, he taught me the Greek letters of the alphabet and other things. Oh, one aspect of his teaching that I didn't quite like when I was a kid was how he asked us to remember poems and recite poems in front of the class. This was rough, really rough for me. I have no really strong facility for memorizing text or poetry, and it was a real struggle for me. I pretty much did very poorly that aspect of the class. Other teachers that I enjoyed, in college, I had a lot of teachers that I liked. Um, it's kind of funny. I don't remember the names of my college teachers as much as I remember the names of my high school teachers. Isn't that odd? I'm not quite sure why that is. It's kind of funny how my high school teachers just come to mind like this, but my college teachers don't come to mind as vividly. I wonder if there's any brain maturing thing going on there. Why would that be? Because if I think about it, if I think about the number of teachers that I had, say, in high school, and I compared that to the number of teachers I had in college, I would guess that I had more college teachers. Yeah. And I'm struggling to name a few college instructors. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if that's some kind of known behavior. All right, next question. Question number 388. Have you smacked a child as disciplinary action? Okay, so Emily, the way you and your mom and I raised you is that we did not engage in corporal punishment at all. And I'm very proud of our decision as parents to not engage in corporal punishment. So I can honestly say no. I think, and even today, I'm feeling more and more assured that we did the right thing. This whole idea of corporal punishment for children is something that's come out of the dark ages. Out of the dark ages. This is something that's come out of, ancient behaviors that really deserve to be binned, right? Because they're completely ineffective and actually have the opposite effect of what is intended. So no, we didn't engage with we didn't. Even today, I don't believe in corporal punishment. I think it's a mistake, and I believe that across the board as a pacifist. So anyway, well, Emily, I'm going to wrap this up right now. I just want to say thank you for this time we spent together, and I want to mention that I appreciate you and I respect you. I respect your autonomy as a person. I respect and am interested in what you have to say. What you say is important to me. I do my best to be engaged as much as I can in your life. I'm engaged through letters, through phone messages, through text messages, engaged through my communications with your mom, through email and text messages. I am engaged through you with my letters and with my videos. So I've got 360-degree engagement here. To me, you are the center of my attention, and that is an element of my valuing you, right? It's me recognizing how important you are in my life, me recognizing just how important you are to yourself, and at the same time, I have this unconditional positive regard for you. I've got a sense of pride for you, and what you've gone through, and how you're dealing with it now, and I'm loving every aspect of it, and I'm grateful for it every day. And I'm grateful for you more and more every day. And I just want to say I love you and I cherish you, and I'll talk to you later.